Namaste. Let us discuss today on not one of the most, but I think the most important subject or the topic of spiritualism. The topic of spiritualism, the most important is who you are. Self-knowledge in the subject of spiritualism. The whole thing revolves around that. The study of the spirit. The spirit is who you are. So complex, so difficult to explain. Then when it was introduced thousands of years before through the Vedas, they themselves, the sages during those days, found it very difficult to explain, to elaborate on what they called the same spirit as Brahman, and we call it as spirit, and science considers that as energy. The absolute reality, the ultimate reality, and not the relative reality which the mind sees. What we see is not the absolute reality or the ultimate reality, because reality which changes cannot be considered as absolute. Ultimate reality, say like the sky, is unchanging. It's one without a second. It's constant. From that came out the law of conservation of energy. Energy is that which is constant, indivisible, can neither be created nor destroyed. In one word, it is the absolute. It is the absolute. But from which relative energies appear and disappear temporarily, which are interchangeable in the form of nuclear, electrical, hydro, chemical, psychic, all sorts of energies appear and disappear. Now these can't be real because they disappear. So the absolute or the ultimate reality is very different. And those sages during those yesteryears or prehistoric years declared that all that exists is Brahman. All that exists is Brahman. And inspired by this, by these scriptures, quantum scientists of quantum mechanics theory came out with that all that exists is energy in the most fundamental level, in the subatomic level, where nothing is tangible. And tangible is what you can see and touch. It is intangible, that which cannot, that which are purely waves of energy, which cannot be seen unless temporarily they change into particles, which becomes mass or matter. So the subject of spiritualism is connected to the metaphysics, not the physics. Physics is physicality. Physics is objective. Physics is in separation. Like science, in order to study anything, it has to segregate, separate, to analyze, to evaluate, to experiment, to infer. It will break a piece of flower into different pieces to study its cross-pollination, self-pollination, and all sorts of things. And this is how reality differs. So let's come down to us as human beings. We are a being in body and brain, physicality and mind. Mind actually does not exist. It's a flow of electromagnetic energy produced by chemical activity in the brain, carrying information here and there through thoughts, which we call as thoughts. So mind in reality is existing in an intangible manner. It's the brain in which the neurons are flowing here and there. So body and mind or brain is that being. Through the body you expand and become something, and through the mind you evolve and become something. So the being and the becoming is there. But what about the beingness, which is the most important? What about the spirit, the beingness? Spiritualism is only concerned with the suffix of NESS. NESS is defining the state or the quality of the being, the essence of the being. Like the essence of the ocean is the water. So, it's the essence, it's the quality, the beingness. Otherwise, the body and the brain is mechanical, like any mechanical object that you see around or that you touch around, whether it's a table, a microphone, or a mobile phone, or anything for that matter. Anything physical matter is mechanical until and unless an operative principle in the form of aware, conscious energy, which makes it active, aware and alive. So it's the conscious principle. A mobile is not alive on itself until we press a button. Somebody has to operate it. There has to be an operative principle. So in this operative principle is where the beingness flows, in a metaphysical, intangible realm, in absoluteness, in totality, not in separation. It occurs in the presence of now, with no constraints of space and time, whereas everything else is limited to space and time. It's finite. Beingness is infinite. It is through our beingness, that everything that we perceive is unfolded, or we unravel that. Without being aware, our eyes, our brain, our mind cannot perceive. Some conscious principle has to. Like the plants and the animals, all living creatures have this aware conscious principle. Awareness is that force of energy and consciousness is its field. It's only after the mind becomes aware through its beingness that it becomes conscious, and through its conscious then it goes into auto mode, which we call as subconscious, lower consciousness, and then below that is being unconscious, when the mind is totally asleep. So it is that awakeness, beingness is that awakeness, beingness is that aliveness, beingness is that essence which makes you aware. It is that intelligence, and it is the highest potentiality in a human being, that art thou, for which we claim that we are that divine, meaning our inert intelligence is that divine, not the intellect. Intellect is borrowed knowledge from here and there, from various mediums, through which we extract through its memory and through outside external sources and rationalize through our intellect. So we become an intellectual out of that borrowed knowledge from here and there. intelligence is unique. Intelligence is that beingness. Intelligence is that consciousness. Intelligence is that awareness. Intelligence is that divine. That is how the sages said, thousands over 8,000-9,000 or whatever thousands of years before, as Prajnanam Brahman. The insight is Brahman. The insight is supreme. And the second Mahavakya which they said was, I am Atman Brahman, meaning the self, the true self is also Brahman in pure consciousness. And the third was Tattvam Asi, thou art that, you are that. And the fourth was, out of the four Mahavakyas, the fourth was Aham Brahmasmi, I am aware conscious energy. Alive enough to be considered as a human being. So this beingness is that aware conscious energy. And how does it connect us with the external, with the internal and the universal? The awareness, the ability, the supreme ability of energy which has the potential to make the mind aware is the spirit. It is contained in the soul. It is the universal spirit. It is contained in the soul. Why it is the universal spirit is, and how does it differ from the soul is, because the soul is individualized. It's individualized. It's a notch less. It's not universal. It's individualized. But it contains the spirit, the absolute. So it has the capacity or the potentiality of the absolute, but it is not the absolute. It has a subject-object relationship in duality with the universe. It is a notchless. And in order to make the mind conscious, consciousness is also in duality. It goes lower into ego consciousness. It goes lower. Because you have to become conscious of this and that in duality. Good or bad, positive or negative. So, the spirit is the absolute, the awareness is the absolute in totality as one, in a non-dual manner. And that is the beingness. And this beingness is the ultimate within us. This beingness is what we are ignorant about. This beingness is what the world does not care about. We only are concerned with the body and the mind and the material self. We do not care about the spiritual self. This is so very important. It's the most important aspect of our life, which unfortunately we ignore. And not only now, even when it was introduced thousands of years back, it was ignored. Why? Because it was not meant for the masses. The masses would not understand this metaphysical realm, the intangible realm. It is very difficult to explain that you are intangible. Now we have the support of science to say that you are intangible, meaning that which cannot be seen and touched, that which does not exist, that which are just waves of energy, of intelligent energy. And that which is absolute and the ultimate reality. All else is relative reality. Reality which disappears, which has no meaning. Which has no meaning. A gold ornament, a ring, may look real to you, melt it, and it's gone. And from that you make something else. You make, say, add more gold and make a bangle. Then that becomes real. Then you melt that bangle and you make it into a earring. That becomes real. So, what is reality in this manner? Nothing. Which is just changing from one form into another. Our mind, our thoughts are changing. Our body is constantly changing. So, it is not real. So, once if you come to know the intangibility of our beingness, we become conscious of our mind, that it is an instrument to use and not to be used by it. We have no check and guidance on our control. We become less dependent on our mind The mind becomes less dominant, otherwise the mind is controlling us fully through our desires and emotions, through identifications and attachments to which it clings on to through mind. We feel that it is eternal, our wealth, our family, our this and that, not realizing that it is the mind which is making an idiot out of you, out of your true self, that is the soul, because the soul is asleep. You never activate the soul, you activate the mind. The soul needs to be awakened from its sleep, by which the spirit then starts performing. How does it perform? It makes the soul, the true self or the soulful self, purely watch and witness. It's the witnesser within you, witnessing through mind on the witness that is the object. That is the process. The soul does nothing but simply watch. And through that watching, your mind becomes aware of what is real and not real, of what is tangible and what is not tangible, what is conscious and what is subconscious. Subconscious is lower consciousness. You become aware. And once you become aware, your third eye opens. The third eye is nothing but the degree of awareness. It is that uniqueness within you which makes you differ, from all other 7.5 billion human beings, say, existing in this world, in this planet Earth. And it is that uniqueness, which is that intelligence, which is that awareness, which is that degree of consciousness, the degree of awareness, the intensity of awareness for which the suffix of NESS is added, and not what our spiritual masters keep on adding prefixes of Mahatma, Acharya, Satchitananda or whatnot. I do not know what not they keep on adding, for which instead of adding that, they should be telling us what spiritualism is really about, what the spirit is really about, what is the role that does it play, and how does we become a better human being, a more evolved human being, and a more transformed human being out of that. And that is why understanding that beingness is very important, especially now when we have the support of this science. Otherwise, earlier in the prehistoric years, when this metaphysical realm could not be explained properly, this intangible realm could not be explained properly in the form of Brahman to the masses, they had to inculcate fear in the name of God to discipline the society. They had to create traditions, rituals, casteism, and various other supernatural fables and stories to convey the message, to inculcate fear that if you do not do this, God will punish you. God is that intelligence, God is that insight. Prajnanam Brahman, the topmost. So please, like quantum mechanics theory says, everything is energy and energy is everything. Everything is Brahman and Brahman is everything. Both are identical. Both are nothing but your beingness, far above your body and mind. Far above. And it resides in the superconscious section of your mind, which is devoid of thoughts. In thoughtless thoughts, you watch and witness through the spirit to evolve and transform through your beingness. Thank you very much. Namaste.